What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. We don't got anything crazy. No, scratch that. We do. We had the annual NFL meeting these past couple days. It's going on. Currently, still going on. We got Gerard Mayo talking. We got Robert Kraft talking. As far as the NFL news goes, they've made a couple of new rule changes. So let's hop right in. Gerard Mayo had a nice sit-down talk at the annual meeting. And he's all over the place. I don't know whether he's coming or going. I don't know what he's saying half the time, if he means what he's saying. He was getting hit with some good questions by the media. First off, they just asked if he wanted to clear any of the air on how the offseason's been going. And he said, the clarity I would begin with is free agency. The media, the fans, everyone wants that big signing. But at the same time, as we continue to put this team together, I think there has to be a process. I would say offensively this year, we were very picky as far as the players we were getting. At the same time, that wasn't really a deep offensive free agent class to even make that type of splash, end quote. I clearly remember him saying he was going to burn some cash. All of a sudden, he doesn't want to spend money. He's not about it. He's about taking his time. Well, I think Elliot Wolf and the rest of his group had to have a nice sit-down conversation with Mayo. Talk about how he can approach talking to the media. Because that is completely different than what he said. You can't gaslight New England after 20 years of what we did after these past couple of years of suffering, and then you say we're going to burn cash, get a good team together, and oh no, all of a sudden, it's a long process. Get your stuff together, Gerard. Come on. The media asked him, followed up, if he regretted that burn some cash quote. He said, quote, "No, I don't regret it. Look, I'm a first-year head coach. I didn't mean like burn some cash. I know we have a lot of cash to utilize, but we are going to utilize it the right way. We have to be very convicted when we do spend that cash," end quote. Again, just completely switching up what he said the first time around. Then they followed up and asked him about the draft, and he said, "We sit at a quote. We sit at a very enviable spot at number 3, where we could take someone at 3, or if someone offers a bag, as we would say, a lot of first-round picks. We definitely have to talk about these things as we continue to put together this team," end quote. All right, well, what I got from that is, again, they were like, Gerard, you got to be careful with what you're saying. You can't say one way or the other, because here, he says it could go either way. And you know what? I'm completely fine with that if they told him to do that from the beginning. But, you know, he's playing with our emotions, saying with the burn the cash crap. And this is fine for me, because if they are, which it seems like they are, looking to get a quarterback, then this is a fair quote. But if they are looking to trade the pick, why tell the media that they are looking to do it? Then teams are going to approach you offering a lot less. I think they are more than likely leaning towards quarterback. I'm prepared for them to do that. But if they are truly leaving their options open, don't commit one way or the other. This is good. Robert Kraft today was talking to the media, and he had some pretty interesting stuff to say himself. Talking about free agency, he said, quote, "There was one outstanding receiver that unfortunately we couldn't close. It was not because of finance. He made clearly his girlfriend wanted to be in the South, and we had a situation where the taxes were almost 10 times higher. We offered or were willing to keep going at that premium, but he didn't want to be in the Northeast. And part of it might be the quarterback situation as well." End quote. I had to toss that little bit in there because he knows what's going on and how terrible the franchise has been the past couple of years. He also was saying, the first thing he said, which I thought was funny, and that was, it was not because of finance. So he's like, hey, don't blame me. I'm not the guy you want to look at for that. I did my part, but he did cover his organization's butt, Elliot Wolf's behind, I should say, with that by saying that it wasn't their fault. They offered him money and he just didn't want to be here, which is fair. I wouldn't want to be up here either if I was Calvin Ridley. But let's not act like he was going to a good quarterback situation in Tennessee either. At the end of the day, Robert Kraft was just covering his butt first and foremost, which was crazy to me. Anyway, they also asked him about the NFL survey that came out a couple weeks ago. That was ran by the NFLPA, for which the Patriots were very low on. He was quoted as saying, "I must tell you I was unaware of how bad that was. We had a plan and we put in place when we're committing a whole new facility adjacent to ours that has been discussed with the young leadership team. A building that will be in excess of $50 million that will have the most modern facilities." You serious, Robert? That's got to be a joke. You weren't aware of the issues? Come on, don't act like you don't talk to every single other owner in the NFL. You didn't know there wasn't a daycare. You didn't know that most teams that ranked high had a daycare. You didn't look at the rankings last year when you were also at the bottom of the list. Don't act like we're stupid. Anyways, Gerard talked for about a half hour. Robert for about 15, 20. If you want to see the videos, they will be attached at the end of my video so you guys can see the full length. Another thing, the Patriots increased their global marketing in the NFL. They were granted the new country of Brazil. This is a thing that the NFL started in 2022, where legally they are allowed to go to these countries and do in-person and digital marketing, corporate sponsorship sales, fan events, and activities, and merchandise sales, and co-marketing relationships with other sports and entertainment properties in that country. Brazil is now our fourth country, which is added to Germany, where we just played a game in this past season, and then Austria and Switzerland. Why did the Patriots get Brazil among other teams? Well, Massachusetts has the second largest Brazilian population in the country behind Florida, and then you got Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire that also have high Brazilian populations in their states. And Gisele Bündchen, of course. In other news, the NFL released, or not the NFL, but sportsbooks released their win-loss prediction over-unders. And the Patriots came in dead last at 4.5. So if that's any indication of how the next year is going to go, just be prepared for the worst. That's all I got for the Patriots this week. Not much else going on. Not much positive to say this week, but we're going to wrap it up and go over to some NFL news. Well, if the NFL wasn't already as soft as ice cream, it's just about as soft as some baby's poop now, because they made some new rules adjustments for next year. If you haven't heard, they are banning the swivel hip drop tackle. What that is when you wrap both hands, both arms from behind a player and twist to bring them down, falling on their legs from behind. It's caused a lot of injuries, and they said no more. It now result in a 15-yard penalty. But the funny thing about it is the NFLPA, the NFL Players Association, didn't want to ban it. So what do you do in NFL? The owners unanimously said, we don't like this, probably because when their good players get hurt, they're pulling in less money. Who cares what the players think, the ones that are actually on the field playing? The owners said, screw that, we don't like it, get rid of it. Now, like I said, they're not going to heavily flag it, but teams will get verbal warnings throughout the games, and that league will hand out fines to players that perform this type of tackle. It'll be interesting to see how the teams adjust to this. Safety's going to be a bigger priority, more important position than was already. Wide receivers, you're going to see a lot of deep shots. In the draft, I'm sure you're going to see players with faster 40 times getting drafted higher. Because once you blow by a defender, odds are they probably can't tackle you that well. In other news, the NFL reformatted kickoffs. It's a little weird. The XFL used this format when they were together, but you know how that league went. It's going to allow for the kick returning team to have one or two kick returners with the rest of their players lined up at their own 35-yard line. As far as the kicking team, the kicker will be at their own 35-yard line with the rest of the 10 players on the kickoff team at the opponent's 40-yard line. So this creates a 5-yard difference between those two long lines of players. Now, when the kicker kicks the ball, this is where it gets super weird. It must land between the 20-yard line and the goal line. If it lands out of that area, the ball will automatically go to the 40-yard line. If it's a touchback, the 30-yard line. So if it bounces in play and ends up in the end zone, or the player knees it, 30-yard line. Anything else, 40-yard line, or you're going to see a return. The objective, is to decrease injuries while increasing returns. And with players only 5 yards apart and having to wait for the ball to hit the ground or the receiver to catch it, it's going to prevent injuries. We'll see how it goes. It's going to look super weird. I'm not opposed to it, but it sucks that the traditional kickoff is getting taken out of the game. You got to do what you got to do. In 5 years, this may be flag football. We've been joking about it for the past 5 years. It's seeming more and more possible every year. We'll see. Whatever. Moving on. L'Jarius Sneed signed with the Titans. He got traded from the Chiefs to the Titans for a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick swap. And he also just got paid an absurd amount of money. 4-year deal, $76.4 million with $55 million guaranteed and a $20 million signing bonus. Cordero Patterson, hours after the new kickoff rules got put in place, he got signed. Shocker. He is going to the Steelers on a 2-year, $6 million deal So he may have a little revival there in his career after making a name for himself returning. C.J. Henderson, gone from the Panthers. He's going to the Texans on a 1-year, $3.25 million contract. Dante Foreman, going to the Browns on a 1-year deal for cheap. Nick Chubb, expected to be out for a little bit. He'll get a lot of carries early on, and then probably ride pine tar after that because he's really not that good. But good for him for getting that contract. Lastly, Solomon Thomas. If you haven't heard that name since he was in college, probably because he hasn't done anything in the NFL. Has failed on the Niners and signed a 1-year deal for the 3 past off seasons now. With the Jets, he got another 1-year deal. Maybe he'll prove it again. He deserves another prove it deal. I don't know, but he's back with the Jets. That's all I got for this week. Until next time, I'll catch y'all.